In today's news video, we cover Lithuanian president dares NATO to cross the line and arm Ukraine against Russia. U.S. Air Force general predicts full-scale war with China by 2025. Watch shocking footage of Ukrainian troops wiping out Russian unit in epic battle. Breaking news: Poland raises defense spending to 4% of GDP, the largest among NATO countries. Enjoy watching and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on important news. NATO countries should stop drawing red lines and supply Ukraine with any weapons it needs, Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda insists. I have seen many red lines that have been drawn, and sometimes I even have the impression that these red lines are not drawn by us, the Western countries, the democracies, but that it is the terrorist state of Russia that is trying to draw them through fear and threats. And it is trying to impose them, he told LRT TV on Monday evening. Nausėda noted that a number of red lines have already been crossed when it comes to Ukraine. I am speaking not only about tanks. Ukraine's EU candidate status was once a taboo, a red line, too. I remember it well. Even when, say, the war broke out, Germany initially said categorically that it would only send vests, helmets and the like, but not weapons. But that red line was also passed quite a long time ago, the president said. This Rubicon has been crossed, so I do hope that this red line, if it really exists, and I think it exists only in our heads, will also be crossed, he said, referring to Kiev's plea for fighter jets and long-range missiles. Because fighter jets and long-range missiles are essential military aid, and at this crucial stage in the war, where the turning point is about to happen, it is vital that we act without delay, Nausėda said. So my answer to your question is that those red lines must be crossed, he added. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine needs more heavy weapons from NATO allies, including fighter jets and long-range missiles, to counter Russia's invasion. A four-star U.S. Air Force general has predicted the United States could be facing a full-scale military conflict with China by the year 2025, it has emerged. General Mike Minihan, the leader of the Air Mobility Command, wrote in a memo to officers that he predicts a war with China in 2025. I hope I am wrong. My gut tells me we'll fight in 2025, he wrote in a memo obtained by NBC News. Minihan believes that the U.S. will be distracted by the 2024 presidential election, allowing Chinese dictator Xi Jinping to take advantage of the situation to invade neighboring Taiwan. The Air Mobility Command, with its 110,000 personnel focused on airlift, air refueling, air mobility support, and aeromedical evacuation, was directed by Minihan to update their emergency contact information and records. He also ordered all personnel to fire a clip into a 7-meter target with the full understanding that unrepentant lethality matters most. However, a Defense Department official insisted that comments are not representative of the department's view on China. Minihan is among various military officials warning of a potential invasion of Taiwan by China, with Chief of U.S. Naval Operations Admiral Mike Gilday predicting a Beijing invasion as soon as this year. Despite Biden's promise of U.S. intervention with force in the event of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, a recent report by the Center for Strategic and International Studies found that sustaining a conflict in the region would be extremely difficult for the United States. As Chinese aircraft continue to be present near Taiwan, the potential for conflict remains a growing concern for U.S. military leaders as the conflict between Russia and Ukraine shows no sign of abating. A Ukrainian officer has revealed footage of the moment his forces wiped out an advancing unit of Russian soldiers. Video shows the group of Russian soldiers walking through a field that has been scarred by heavy fighting. But moments later, many of the soldiers are killed and others seriously wounded after Ukrainian troops launched a series of missiles at the group. Ukrainian officer Anatoly Stefan, who shared the footage, tweeted, "Whoever comes to our land with a sword will die by the sword." He added, "High-quality work of the unit in the eastern direction of Ukraine." In the footage, Russian soldiers can be seen running across the field to help those who were hit by the missile strike. But moments later, they are struck by a second blast as they carried the injured soldiers across the field. The remaining Russian troops began to run across the field, attempting to find cover under the trees before being hit by a third missile. Footage then shows them lying dead in the field, which is scarred by the missile strikes. The latest video comes just weeks after more than 100 Russian troops were wiped out in one missile strike. Using a Tochka-U missile, a weapon specifically designed to hit smaller targets deep in the enemy's defense, Ukraine was able to use just one blast to kill Russian soldiers. Meanwhile, on the front lines in Ukraine, fighting raged in the eastern Donetsk region, with Russia again shelling the key town of Volodar. President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine was facing a difficult situation in Donetsk and needed faster weapons supplies and new types of weaponry, just days after allies agreed to provide Kyiv with heavy battle tanks. The situation is very tough. Bakhmut, Volodar, and other sectors in Donetsk region, there are constant Russian attacks, Zelensky said in a video address late on Sunday. Russia wants the war to drag on and exhaust our forces. So we have to make time our weapon. We have to speed up events, speed up supplies, and open up new weapons options for Ukraine. Poland plans to raise the country's defense spending to 4% of its GDP, Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said on Monday. The war in Ukraine has made us arm ourselves even faster, which is why we will make an unprecedented effort, 4% of GDP for the Polish army this year, Morawiecki told reporters. He said raising defense spending to their new target could mean this will be the highest percentage of all NATO countries. Poland spent 2.4% of its GDP on the military in 2022, the third highest percentage among NATO countries. The U.S. spends 3.47%, $822 billion on defense. Members of NATO are expected to reach spending at least 2% of GDP on defense by 2024. Between now and 2035, Warsaw plans to spend $100 billion on the military. It has already spent $10 billion on arms from the U.S. and South Korea for tanks, howitzers, and advanced rocket systems. The country's army is planned to grow to 250,000 professional soldiers and at least 50,000 personnel, making it the largest land army in the EU. France today has the biggest EU army, with about 200,000 on active duty. Defense Minister Mariusz Błaszczak said recently that Warsaw's target was to increase the number of soldiers in the Polish armed forces to 300,000, 250,000 professional soldiers, and 50,000 territorial defense force (WOT) volunteers.